Dating in 2026 is absolutely cooked, okay, for everybody, but especially for men. Now, I don't want this video to be perceived as like some loser incel is like trying to, is desperate and is not like that at all. I really just want to address the objective reality that is the dating market in 2026, which I would really compare to Armageddon, right? So, there's this thing known as the tall woman theory. If you're unfamiliar with what it is, it's not literally that women are getting taller. It's that women are improving on average. So they're making more money, they're becoming more educated, more independent, and naturally, we know that women try to date up. And because of this, statistics are now showing us that the bottom 80% of women are going for the top 10% of men. This is like according to, various dating apps and things of this nature. They've also done many studies where they ask women to basically rate men on attractiveness and the men to rate the women on attractiveness. And the men, it's a rather uniform, basic bell curve, like as you would expect, right? Because you want to have the average is the most common, right? For women, it was skewed left. So the majority of men fell below the 50% by a significant amount. And it just kind of shows you the way that the perception in our society, I don't know if it's always been like this, but now that we have social media and more advanced studies, we can sort of see that this is very much a reality. So the question is, how do you win? So, women, they're improving, and women like to date up, right? And men, they're actually getting shorter. So they're making less money. They're actually physically getting shorter as well. So they're kind of going down. And as women become more independent, they're not really attached to men. So what happens is you have one going up, one going down. So now the potential selection of mates that can be matched together is decreasing significantly as time goes on. And so the repercussions of this are absolutely terrible when you think about the birth rate, because when you don't have people that are mating, the birth rate goes down. And I don't know if it already is, or it's like almost to the point where it's so low that the country won't even be able to survive in the later future. And so, I mean, bro, it's funny. I was joking with my friend the other day about this. I said, I grew up in Chicago, and the majority of the people that went to in the school system growing up, like in my high school, it was majority Hispanic, majority Latino, more than white actually. And I got a taste of the Hispanic culture. I also did door-to-door sales where I would knock on in these neighborhoods that were predominantly Hispanic as well. And what I can tell you from my experience was that these people they have some of the most like virtuous, they have some of the most, not some of the most, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but a very virtuous culture. It's not very superficial. They, like, Latina baddies will date like a 5'6" Latina guy, right? And I find, like, I wish that this type of mindset and mental framework could be applied to our entire society, right? Because it's not shallow, right? People value based on, in these cultures, I realize that they value based off of merit, based off of what somebody can actually provide, and, personality. And in our society, you have, everybody says, oh my gosh, we care about looks. That's not true. Or they say they care about personality, but they care a lot more about looks. The gateway, the entrance to caring about personality is looks. So you have to first be physically attracted before you can ever be romantically, emotionally attracted, right? And so it's a fascinating concept. In my experience, I have realized that there is, this is where I struggle, because I don't want people to perceive this as I'm like some bitter like male or whatever. Like I don't really leave my house much. That's my biggest issue. I have a decent social media following, and I have chicks coming in my DMs every single day. So if I like really want to, I could pursue any of that. But with the few experiences that I have had, there seems to be a level of entitlement from women. I really genuinely do not want this to be seen as misogynistic. I truly just want to explain what I believe to be the truth in my experience. There is a high level of entitlement where, let me give you guys an example. So I might have already told this story on my channel, but about a month ago, a friend of mine from my hometown, which is across the country, is like back in Chicago, came and visited me. And he was staying because he had some business stuff that he was doing in the city. So I drove down to the city near me. I live in Colorado, so I was going to Denver. And I go and meet up with him, and it's like him and then a bunch of his like coworkers or like friends, or I don't know exactly the situation. So it's one, like, just to give you guys and illustrate like the setting. I don't know any of these people except for like my close friend. And so you understand like how that feels like socially, like you're just kind of like gonna try to keep the peace and just be cool with everybody. So we go into this, it's a really cool like rooftop bar slash restaurant. Okay. We get there and immediately I'm like meeting everybody, I'm shaking hands, and there's this one girl, pretty girl, she starts talking to me like right away. But bro, the way she approached me was very, very like off-putting. She literally, the first thing she said was, "How tall are you?" But in sort of like an attitude way. And I wasn't sure if she was like joking because I'm actually 6'5". I'm not one of those guys that like, I am actually 6'5". You can see any of my short form content, like you can see I'm tall. And so it's just kind of obvious that like I'm actually towering over this woman, and she's asking me how tall I am. And it didn't seem like she was joking. It seemed like she was very serious, but I was like, okay, maybe I read that wrong. So as a joke, I said, "Oh, like, tall enough, just making like a funny joke, whatever." And she's like, "No, actually, how tall are you?" And I was like, "I'm 6'5". And she's like, "Okay, good." She literally says, "Good enough." I'm like, "Good enough? Like what? If that's this, what is the standard for you? 6'3" and up? Like, we're talking about point whatever percentage." And then the next question that she asked me, I don't even know if she knows my name at this point. I don't know if she maybe overheard it from some other people. She's like, "What do you do for a living and how much money do you make?" And I said to her, I was like, I think that's an inappropriate question to ask somebody upon first meeting them. Especially when we're not on a date here. Like, I came with my friend. And I was like, and she was like, "Really? I think it's a fair question to ask." I'm like, "I didn't ask you." And she's like, "Well, I'm a woman." I was like, "I'm not really sure what that has to do with anything." But there was this very much obvious sense of entitlement, and I was like, "Well, why are you asking me these questions?" And she literally says back to me, "I'm going to be straightforward. I want to know if you're worth my time." Okay, what a dehumanizing thing to say to somebody else. You want to know if you're worth my time? Guess what? I'm not even interested in you. So let's get off our high horse here. Yeah, I was never interested in you in the first place, especially after that interaction. Like, what are we talking about? So I think that's clearly a more extreme case. Most people don't do this. I've talked to, many people, many women, and it's not like that at all. They're much sweeter, but this is, all of my boys have had some similar type of experience where, there just seems to be like you immediately have the low ground. The woman has the advantage. It's like it's cooked for us, basically. Okay, like that is the reality, and it's sad because I look out for other guys that are not going to be in my position. Not everybody is going to have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. Not everybody's gonna, have a little bit of like clout, or like, some people are. I would say I don't think I'm that attractive of a person. I would say I'm somewhere around average, but some people are going to be far below average, so they like, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there are people that are significantly less fortunate than me. And if it's like, I still got to deal with this stuff, I mean, imagine how it is. My best friend who I met on that trip, no bullshit. He's 5'2" Indian guy in America. So love him to death. He's genuinely one of the greatest personalities, one of the kindest, ridiculously intelligent, very ambitious, has a whole like career that's like being set up for him. Like he's an architect. He already has individual projects under his belt. Like he has a good future ahead of him, shall I say. And it's just like, I feel for the guy. I've had conversations with him where it's like, dude, it's going to be tough if you're 5'2", you're not the same ethnicity as most people in the country. It's just like the unfortunate reality is people like this get overlooked. Now, I'm not trying to make it seem like women aren't in a bad situation too. What you'll realize is that a lot of the men that are in that top 10% that can attract, they are they're indifferent about things. They don't care. They don't give effort, which is kind of infuriating for everybody else, all the other guys. But it's true, they really, because they have access to 80% of women, it doesn't really matter how much they treat this one woman. So I could see that end of it sucks a lot too. It just seems like my grandparents were your basic story of high school sweethearts. So my grandfather engaged to my grandmother on prom night. They end up getting married at 19. So they had a friend group that was like 7 guys, 7 girls. All 7 of them dated the first person, or married the first person they ever dated, and none of them got divorced because there was a sense of loyalty. Nowadays, with social media, what happens is you have this pretty much false reality of options, to where like the person that you're with is never good enough. It's not as good as the person that you just scrolled by on Instagram. And so the illusion of choices is taking away from a person's ability to be vulnerable and commit to one person when they know there's more out there. Something like this has never been seen for millennia. We really don't know the effects of this, and it's terrible. And it's like, what's going to happen is, we're going to have a birth rate issue. I mean, we already do. We have a severe birth rate problem. It's looking like, a lot of countries are not going to be able to support themselves. It's not the best situation. But this is the reality of the world that we live in today. The thing is, this is game theory optimal. If you're a guy, you can't even... I know it sounds like I'm complaining in this video. I'm more so trying to address what the problem is. But you can't, it's not really worth it to sit and complain. You just got to try to, level up in life. That's the only way you can beat the system. Because you single-handedly are not just going to make everybody just come together and all of these women all of a sudden want to play the game fair, because that's just not how it works. They're not going to play fair. You can't sit and just complain about it. It's just useless. You got to try to level up. You got to try to make money, gain a little bit of status. It sounds very superficial, but it is the reality of the world that we live in today. So I'm truly hoping for the best for everybody. I also can't stand the instant dopamine desire where it's like, let's just hook up with people. Oh, I don't want to put skin in the game. I don't want to actually get close to this person. I just want all the benefits of it. And ironically, this destroys everything, because when you are opening yourself to anybody, you're destroying the value of it. And if you do the most intimate act with just anybody, then there is no ultimate intimate act, right? This is basic. I truly don't understand how people don't understand it, but it's the world that we live in today. Anyways, best of luck to all you gentlemen that are watching this video. Women as well, because we're all in this boat together. Thank you guys for watching.